Welcome back. Our last session laid the groundwork introducing the core components of data warehousing, that is, dimensions and facts. Today, we are set to sail into deeper currents, focusing on a critical aspect slowly changing dimensions, in short called SCDs. Trust me, there will not be a single interview without a question on SCDs in data analytics. Hence, grasping their mechanics is essential not only to harness the full potential of data warehousing, but also to crack the interview. Before diving deeper today, check out our introductory video if you haven't already, as it sets the stage for today's content. Let's get to the details. Slowly changing dimensions addresses how to manage and track changes in dimension data over time. Why is this important? In the world of business and data, information is not static. These dimensions change slowly over time, but not on a regular basis. For example, take your address. It is not something that changes daily, but it changes over time. SCDs enable businesses to keep a history of these dimension changes, which is important for trend analysis, forecasting, and making strategic decisions. Imagine if a customer relocates, a slowly changing dimension allows the data warehouse to retain the customer's previous address for historical reporting while also tracking the new address for the current analysis. They are further classified to handle these changes effectively. They are type 1, type 2, and type 3. Let's begin with SCD type 1. It represents a simplistic approach where the new data overrides the existing data. In essence, this method does not maintain any history, which means it only keeps the latest data in the dimension table. Typically, it is called upsert, update plus insert logic in practice, meaning when an attribute changes, the existing record is updated to reflect the new information and the old data is lost. For a new entry, it inserts a new record. That way, there is no trace of history in SCD type 1. This method is straightforward and cost effective as it requires less space and processing power. However, it does not allow for historical trend analysis since it does not keep any history. What is its real world use case? This type is used when historical data is unimportant for the business, such as updating a person's current city of a residence or correcting misspelled description. Let me take an example to illustrate these SCD types. Imagine a customer has lived in Delhi, India for the last 2 years. He then moved to Chennai for 6 months and his recent address was changed to Hyderabad. In case of type 1, it does not maintain history anytime. So it can have only the latest address of a customer. With this understanding on type 1, let's move to SCD type 2. Type 2 is used to track changes in dimensional data over time in a data warehouse. This type of dimension is crucial when it's important to preserve the historical context, allowing analysts to see how data has changed over time. Type 2 maintains the complete address history. But how do we know which one is the latest record? There are different ways to maintain history data. One is using timestamp, and the other is through flagging. To illustrate the use of timestamps, let's go through an example of the customer dimension. When a customer initially registers with an address in Delhi, a record is created in the database with a start date. Later, when they relocate to Chennai, we don't just update the existing record. Instead, we close it with an end date and create a new one for Chennai, keeping the end date null until they move again. This way, we maintain a historical trail of their addresses over time. When they finally move to Hyderabad, the cycle repeats. We update the end date of the Chennai record and create a new one for Hyderabad. It's like keeping a detailed diary of their journey. That way, using timestamp, it is easier to retrieve historical and current records. The other way to maintain history is through flagging. In flagging, there will not be timestamps assigned, but active flag column is maintained. For the historical data, the active flag is N. That means it is not active anymore. For the latest record, it sets active flag is Y. That way, SCD Type 2 enables businesses to perform time-based analysis, like assessing customer behavior before and after relocating or evaluating the sales performance of a product before and after a design change. By leveraging SCD Type 2, businesses can answer questions like what was the churn rate before we introduced a loyalty program? Hope SCD Type 2 is clear with the examples and the use cases we have discussed so far. SCD Type 3 keeps limited history. It is a blend of both Type 1 and Type 2. It does not maintain the full history like Type 2, but rather keeps only a limited history, often the current and previous values. This is typically done by adding new columns to the dimension table to capture the changes. For instance, if you track changes in the customer's location, you would have current city and previous city as two separate columns in your dimension table. So anytime there will be one record capturing the current state as well as the previous state. What is the real world use case here? These are useful when analyzing patterns or changes between 2 points in time, such as before and after scenarios, like comparing sales figures before and after a major marketing campaign. One of the limitations of Type 3 SCD is that it cannot provide a complete historical sequence of changes. It only able to show a snapshot of then versus now. Type 3 SCDs are less common compared to Type 1 or Type 2, largely because they only capture a snapshot of change, and this limitation makes them less suitable for analysis that require tracking multiple historical changes. However, in scenarios where the analysis is focused on understanding the transition from one state to another, Type 3 SCDs can be quite useful. To summarize the SCDs, Type 1, no history. Type 2, complete history. Type 3, limited history data is maintained. This concludes our today's session on slowly changing dimensions. See you in the next video with all different types of dimensions.